In a real website, the values assigned to variables would be drawn from a database or some other data source. But to keep things simple in this page, they've been hard-coded here above the doc type. Now we've got some variables, let's embed them in the HTML to display their contents. And along the way, we'll also look at how to join strings using the dot operator, as well as an important feature of double-quoted strings. So what I want to do is to replace the book title with this variable here, title. So let's just scroll down, and my H2 headings here, book title, select that HTML, delete it, add some PHP tags, and between them I'm going to type echo, which is the command for displaying simple variables such as text and numbers. And it'll be echo title followed by a semicolon. If I save that and go to my browser, I need to load that page. It's 01_05 and the name is display PHP. And there we are, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The value stored in the title variable is being displayed. So let's change the author, delete a and other. I'm going to add some PHP tags. And this time, instead of using echo, I'm going to use print. And the variable is author. And if I save that, I've now got echo title and print author. Go to my browser, reload that, and Douglas Adams is being displayed, the value stored in the author variable. So what's the difference between the two? Well, as you've just seen, there isn't one. Both of them display the value that's stored in the variable. There is a very subtle difference between the two, and if you ever get to a really advanced stage of PHP, you might be interested in the difference, but for all intents and purposes, they do exactly the same. Most people end up using whichever one they learned first. I learned echo first. I also happen to prefer it because it's one less letter to type. Another thing that you will find is a lot of people put parentheses around the variable. So if I put parentheses around title after echo and do the same with print, put parentheses around author. If I save that, go back to the browser and reload it, notice any difference? No, didn't think so. There is no difference. This is one of the things in PHP that happens to be optional, putting parentheses around the variables used with echo and print. Because they're optional, it's extra typing. I recommend that you don't bother with them at all, but just in case you see code that uses them, you know what that actually means. Now the book description. I'm going to replace that text. And this time, instead of using a full opening PHP tag, I'm going to use a shorthand tag. So open angle bracket, question mark, equals sign. And then the closing tag is the same as always. And this is a shorthand way of typing echo. It can be used with only one statement, but it's a useful shorthand. So if I type in description and then save that, refresh my browser, you can see that the description is being displayed. As you've seen, this is a really useful shorthand, but I must warn you that it's not supported on all servers. If your server is running PHP 5.4 or later, it's definitely supported. If your server is running an earlier version of PHP, it's only supported if the configuration is set to support short opening tags. Because it's not supported by all servers, throughout the rest of the course I'll be using the full opening PHP tag and echo. But if your server supports this shorthand, please use it. It's really quite useful. Now, the problem with the description is that it doesn't contain the answer. So we need to add the answer by joining two strings together. And the way that you join two strings together in PHP is with the dot operator. So I'm going to add a space after description, type a dot or a period, and then another space and answer. And I'll save that and refresh my browser. There is the answer being displayed, but notice there's no space between that closing colon, which is at the end of description, and the 42. Putting the space on either side of the dot operator doesn't add a space into the string. The reason for the space is purely and simply to make it easier to read your code, because that dot operator can be rather small and difficult to spot. You can't use the plus sign as you use in JavaScript. That won't work. The dot operator joins two strings in PHP. If you want to add an extra space, there are several ways in which you can do it. One of them is to add a literal space, in other words, to add a new string. So if I put a opening quote, type a space, and a closing quote, type a space, another dot operator, and then save, I now have a space between the two. So let's just reload that, and that space has been added there. But there's actually a much better way of doing it, and that's to use a double quoted string. So I've deleted that extra string and the dot operators. I've got a space between description and answer, and I'm now going to wrap them in double quotes. Save, reload, and that space is still there. What happens if I use single quotes? Well, let's see. And reload the browser. Now, instead of the values in those variables being displayed, I get the names of the variables themselves. When you use single quotes, that gives you literal text. If you use double quotes and you have a variable inside those double quotes, the value stored in the variable is displayed. So let's change that back to double quotes. And the last thing I want to do is to display the price. And I want to have a dollar in front of my price value. So I'm going to type a dollar into the HTML, and then I'm going to have a PHP opening tag, echo and price, and my closing tag. And then if we save and view again in the browser, refresh the browser, there we are. The dollar sign has been added in front, price $10.99. So you've seen three different ways to display numbers and strings using echo, print, and the echo shorthand. All three work with variables or literal values. There's nothing really to choose between echo and print, but echo is one letter less to type. The echo shorthand works only with single statements and isn't supported on all servers, so test it carefully before you use it. You've also seen how to join strings with the dot operator and how to embed variables in a double-quoted string. Often, the values stored in a database or submitted through an online form aren't in the right format. PHP provides a huge number of built-in functions that allow you to manipulate string values. As a simple example, let's use a function to convert a string to uppercase. In the file that I've got open, above the doc type, I've created a variable called city, and I've assigned it the value London. And in the HTML down below, I've got 3 paragraphs with PHP blocks that use echo to display the value of city. And in this second paragraph, I want to convert the value of city to uppercase. I'm going to do that using a built-in PHP function that has a rather unpronounceable name, stir to upper. It makes a bit more sense when you realize that the str at the beginning stands for string, so it's string to upper or string to uppercase. I'll call it string to upper to make it easier to pronounce. So to convert city to uppercase, I need to pass city as an argument to string to upper. The way I do that is after echo, add string to upper, str, toupper, and to convert that value, to pass it as an argument, it goes between parentheses after the function name. So opening parenthesis after string to upper and a closing parenthesis after city. And if I save that, I can now view the result in a browser. And it's in the 01_06 folder, and the name of the file was functions.php. And there we are. In that second paragraph, London has been converted to uppercase, but in the third paragraph it still spelt the original way. And the reason for that is that the result of the function wasn't captured. All it did was it displayed it using echo. So to capture the result, I need to assign it to a variable. Let's go back to my editor. What I'm going to do after this second paragraph, I'm going to add in a PHP block, and I'm going to create a new variable called converted. And I'm going to assign to that string to upper and as its argument city. I want to display the value of converted, so I'm going to copy this paragraph and paste it down here and then make a couple of quick edits to it. So this will be converted. And instead of echo string to upper, we will echo our new variable called converted. And let's see that in the browser again. Refresh the browser. And there it is. Converted is now uppercase London, but the original value is still the same. So let's go back to my editor and take a look at that code again. What I've done here in this second paragraph is I've simply used echo and string to upper, so I've not actually captured the value. So in the fourth paragraph, city is still a mixture of uppercase and lowercase. Here, I've saved the value in a new variable called converted, and I've displayed the value of converted. City still remains exactly as it was before, so I've created two variables, one with the original value and one with the converted value. In this case, I've used a completely different variable. I could in fact reassign it to city, and that would make the change permanent, but it's often very useful to be able to keep the original value for further processing. This has been only the briefest of introductions to the use of functions in PHP. The function string to upper takes only one argument. Others take multiple arguments as a comma-separated list. In the vast majority of cases, functions don't change the value of arguments unless you reassign the result of the function to the same variable. But you can also assign the result of a function to a new variable, which can be extremely useful if you want to preserve the original value for further processing. If you're familiar with processing text or strings in JavaScript, you'll discover that PHP has a much wider range of functions for manipulating text. It doesn't matter how experienced you become at writing PHP or any other type of code, when you come back to a script several months later, the meaning won't always be obvious, so it's useful to add comments to remind you what the code was for. Comments are also a useful way of disabling part of a script when troubleshooting problems. PHP has three different styles of comments. Two of them are the same as in JavaScript, so let's deal with them first. And to make it a little bit easier to see where the comments are, I'm going to reorganize the script in this page so the PHP is on a beginning of a line. Let's just move that. The first style of comment is anything between two forward slashes and the end of the line is treated as a comment and ignored by the PHP engine. So after this echo string to upper city, I'm going to add a comment by typing two forward slashes. And I'm using Dreamweaver as my editor, and you can see that it's already changed the color to orange. That's syntax highlighting, telling me that I'm actually doing a comment, so it will be ignored by the server. And the comment that I want to add to remind me of what's going on is temporary conversion to uppercase. The second type of comment is used not only in JavaScript, it's also used in CSS. So let's add one here, create a couple of extra lines. And the CSS type of comment is / asterisk. Everything's now turned orange, telling me that I'm writing a comment. And the value of this is it can be spread over several lines. And we finish that off with an asterisk and a /. And the final style of PHP comment comes from command line scripting. Anything between a hash and the end of the same line is treated as a comment. So let's add one of those comments down here. Let's put it just here on line 25, add in a new line, and then we'll type a hash, and everything after that will be treated as a comment. Original value remains unchanged. So those are the three types of comments in PHP. A double slash or a hash creates a single line comment, and the CSS style comment works exactly the same as in CSS. It can span multiple lines. So how often should you add comments to scripts? I think it really depends. Sometimes it's useful to use comments to outline the logic of your script even before you start writing any code. But there's no need to go overboard. One of the best approaches is to use what are known as self-commenting scripts. In other words, use meaningful names for variables, so it's obvious what they're for. Also, if you create your own functions, give them names that describe what they do. For example, later in this course, I'll show you how to create a function called getColor, which extracts the color from a long file name. As well as adding clarity to your scripts, comments also play an important role in troubleshooting problems. You can disable or comment out part of your script to make it easier to concentrate on the actual problem, or see the effect of removing part of your code. As a very simple example, I'm going to comment out line 27 by putting a hash at the beginning. And that has now been turned orange by Dreamweaver. It tells me it's a comment, it's going to be ignored. So if I save that page and then view it in my browser, I just need to load it. It's in folder 01_07, and the file name is comments.php. And you can now see that that last line is being ignored. It's not being displayed. So we've looked at creating single and multi-line comments in PHP. A single line comment is anything between two forward slashes and the end of the same line, or between a hash and the end of the same line. Multi-line comments are formed the same way as in CSS and JavaScript, using /* as the opening tag and */ as the closing tag. Comments help clarify the meaning of your code. They can also be used to disable part of a script temporarily.